Are you looking to organically grow and market your podcast without having to spend a whole bunch of hours just trying to promote your content and spam it to random people? Well, stick around because by the end of this episode, you'll be learning a really great method that's going to show you some really great positive results. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Alec Casson here with Impact Podcaster Academy, where we help podcasters create more impact and income online without having to rely on getting a whole bunch of views, a whole bunch of downloads, without having to put in all the time and effort to get sponsors. So in this episode, I wanted to quickly answer a question that was asked by a buddy of mine, Alajuan. We're in the same Christian Facebook podcaster group, and he was asking for some methods to better market his podcast, how to find people online that are likely to be the perfect audience for his show. Now, the method that I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode is one that I've been using for a little while now. I've been wanting to grow my show more without having to just put more and more money in, because whenever you're going to be investing money into something when it comes to growing your podcast or getting a message out there, you don't want to do it just to get downloads. If you're going to be spending money to invest into something, you got to make sure it's being invested in a method that's also going to be bringing back a good ROI, like a good return on your investment. Because no one would ever try to invest in a stock, just doesn't give you your money back, doesn't give you any money. You know, people are upset when they lose a couple dollars on their shares, but if it were to go to zero, they'd be like, that was the worst investment ever. Yet we're doing that just to get things like likes and downloads. So before you even start thinking of investing in getting more downloads, you got to make sure you have a strategy that's able to collect people's contact information and allows them to spend money with you so that you can give them great value in return. But if you're looking for free ways to just grow podcasts that you have and do it in a way that is organic, this method is going to be great for you. And also, this method can make you some money as well. In fact, in the last month or so, just by me using this method, I was able to generate $150. That's pretty good, just from casually doing this. And I didn't have to spend any money to do it either. So it's like $150 profit essentially from that. So this is the method that I used, and it's one that can work for any show, any podcast. So here it is after all of that buildup and anticipation. The process you're going to go through is you're going to find either groups. It's either groups that you're going to look for that are related to the topic, related to the type of person who you want to market towards. So if I have a show that's about being a stay-at-home mom who's a baker, tips for stay-at-home moms that bake, then I would either look for Facebook groups, obviously, that are towards baking at home, or it's towards stay-at-home moms, because either of those will have some subset of a demographic that's going to be related to the people that might enjoy your content. And then when you find those groups, you interact in them. And I know you might be thinking like, okay, Alec, I already know these types of things, but hold on, this is where it gets interesting. So you are interacting in the groups, you're commenting on posts, you're possibly even posting questions that are allowing your audience to raise their hand and say, hey, that's me, like I identify with that. And what kind of posts are these? Well, I call them conversation starter posts. It could be something like this. So let's say I'm in a group for stay-at-home moms, but I'm looking for stay-at-home moms who are bakers. And the post could say something like this. It's like, you're a messy baker when, then fill in the blank. And everyone who comments on that it's likely going to be people who are they're all they're all stay-at-home moms, because that's a group for stay-at-home moms. But then those who comment on it are also stay-at-home moms who are bakers, because they're like, oh, I'm a messy baker. I know I'm a messy baker when I leave that roller pin. I don't know what it's called, but like when I leave it on the counter, it gets flour dust everywhere. I don't even bother to wash the thing. It's like, well, they commented on that post. Now they identify as being part of your audience. So then what do? You comment back, you start a conversation, and you do it in a way where you are genuinely trying to get to know the person. And this has a twofold benefit. The first one is that you're building rapport with the person. They're getting to know, like, and trust you before they feel like, oh, this person's just trying to get me to increase the downloads for their podcast. No one likes someone who comes up and they're just trying to sell something right off the bat. So you're starting that rapport. And then the second benefit is that everything that they are telling you is stuff that you can then use to create content down the road. So if you're learning about what their struggles are, if you're learning about what their dreams are, then you can tailor your content to speak to those things. Because people who are in pain, the only thing they're thinking about is the thing that's causing them pain. And the only thing they want is something that can get rid of that pain for them. And people who have goals and people who have dreams, if you're able to help them reach that faster, quicker, less effort, or do it in a bigger way, they're going to pay attention. And you can use all of your content to then speak towards that thing. And another really awesome thing is that as you're talking to your perfect audience, as you're talking to these people who have raised their hand, the people that you've noticed in the groups that are saying things that you resonate with, that you can add value towards, you can study like how they're saying things. You can study what they're saying. In fact, the first book that I wrote is comprised, like the title of it was decided on people who were saying certain things. The advertisements was tailored based on what people were saying online. Like the original title for it was going to be like your God-given vision and mission in life. And people were kind of confused by it. They're like, oh, cool. So this is going to help you create like a kingdom-centered business plan or something? And I'm like, no, that's not. It's more of like, the vision and mission. Like, yes, like businesses have vision and mission. Like, how does that look in your life? And they're like, oh, so it's kind of like calling. And I'm like, yes, that's the word. It's discovering your God-given calling. And then someone else was like, well, I just feel like I'm not too clear on what my purpose is. And I was just like, duh, that's another great term. So the title of the book ended, it went from like your God, vision, and mission in life, or something. I forgot what it was, but it went from that to planting your purpose, a 20-day guide to discovering God's calling. And it did really well. It was making a good amount of sales, but it didn't end there. I was continuing to talk with people who identified as being part of my perfect audience. And it was like randomly one of these days, I was talking with this woman, just getting to know her and seeing how like my content could help add more value to her life. And she just reached out and she was just like, well, you know what, Alec? It's just, I feel like I'm barely getting off the ground and it sucks because I'm seeing everyone else around me thrive. It was something along the lines of that. Like, it sucks that I feel like I'm barely getting off the ground while others around me are thriving. And I was like, man, I feel like a lot of other people identify with that. And I'm just like, this is all stuff that I'm thinking. And I'm like, you know what? I think that if I were to say that in like maybe like an advertisement or in a post, a lot of people would say, you know what, Alec, I feel that same way too. And by just talking with people who I identified as being part of my audience that I would want to create content towards, they were literally telling me the things that I could then use to create content later on that would draw them in. It has them saying, wow, this is exactly for me. And just with that alone, like that allowed me to sell like over like 500 copies of my book. It brought in like $12,000. Like, I'm not saying this as like an income claim thing. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying the power of what can happen when you use this, and brought like over $12,000 in revenue in like less than 6 months. And it started by just talking with people and understanding them. So this could be applied in Facebook groups. You could do this on YouTube. You could look up YouTube videos, how-to videos, YouTube videos of other people that are similar in your market, or like the experts or the influencers in your market, and see who's commenting on their videos. And then you comment on the people's comments to get to know them. You do the same exact thing with Instagram. There's a variety of resources that you can do this for. Reddit as well. You are interacting with people to get to know them. And then you might be thinking too, like, okay, but like, when do I actually share my show with them? And you do that when it's appropriate. You do it when it makes sense for you to ask, hey, is it cool if I share with you this episode that I made? I think it would really fit well with what we're talking about here. When you can ask that person that in confidence and then you can share it with them, that's the perfect time to do it. You don't want to be like, hey, you're a Christian. I have a Christian podcast. Here you go. It's like there's not enough of a connection there. But after having some dialogue and the person's like, you're like, hey, you know what? All that stuff you were sharing with me, I think I got a really great resource that I can share with you that'll help. It's actually a podcast episode that I released recently. Is it okay if I send you the link for it? And you want to ask permission. And then when they say, yeah, that'd be awesome, then you share it with them. This has allowed me to really grow my own podcast significantly, and doesn't require spending money or anything like that. And all the valuable information you're getting just from having conversations can pay off big down the road. And like I had said earlier in this episode, this very method, just in the last couple of weeks, $150, because guess what? I was talking with people who identified as being podcasters that like really wanted more assistance with growing their podcast using Instagram, hence the Grow and Monetize Your Podcast with Instagram book. And I was talking with them and I was like, guys, like I literally wrote the book on this thing. How about we work together? We'll do like a little live video training thing. And, like I plan on making this anyway, doing like a live video training. When it comes out, it's going to be like $300, but if you want to sign up right now, it's just like $50. You down? And they're like, yes, of course. And it's not like a scam. It's not some type of thing where it's like, oh, I tricked them. It's like, no, I talked with them. I understood what their frustrations are. I understood what their goals are. And now I'm like, cool, I'm gonna build you something that can get you that. And they were like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. And the entire time, like, we're not even done going through the content yet. And they're like, dude, this is well worth like the $47, whatever it is that they paid. Like, because I'm creating something that's valued easily at $300, and they're only having to pay $47. And I was able to get 3 solid dudes that I'm excited to work with because I got to talk with them, and I'm excited to work with them because they're perfectly in line with the perfect audience I want to work with. So I know there was a lot of content there, but I really hope that I was able to inspire some next steps, some thoughts, some plans of how you can incorporate this in your own show as well. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening. And if you want to learn more content like this, make sure to hit subscribe and like, and I will see you in the next episode.